Hello, welcome to the show, 15 Minutes of Fame with Dawn Branch. I'd like to say thank you to my sponsors, twinkletoesapparel.com in Georgia. These wonderful sandals that say Twinkle Toes. And they also have leotards and tights, all the wonderful accessories, even charcoal pouches that you can place into your dance bag. We have a new sponsor tonight, Spirit and the Word Ministries. My friend Pastor Herrera and his lovely wife, Minister Kim Herrera. They gave me this wonderful bag. Isn't it nice? So I'll put my dance stuff in here. Put my choco. Look, leotards. Well, I'm not wearing leotards, but you know what I mean. My dance stuff. Thank you, Spirit and the Word Ministries, and thank you for watching the show. Bye. 15 Minutes of Fame is looking for you. So if you're an industry professional and you want to share your journey, contact me at dawnbranchworks@gmail.com and we'll get your story shared right away. Thank you.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to 15 Minutes of Fame with Dawn Branch. Here we bring entertainment industry professionals into your home where they share their secrets of their journey of their success. Tonight's guest is a dance icon, Mr. Keith Lee. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm excited and I'm nervous. I mean, like, seriously.
It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, I want to say congratulations to you. You were just recently recognized. You received a prestigious award. Tell us about that award and what it means.
Well, it's an artist laureate award. Basically, a lot of people just think of me as a dancer, master teacher, or choreographer, but I do a lot of other things. And I like to write poetry and I like to make films. I'm a master gardener. So, I mean, basically anything that has to do with art that's basically what I do.
Yes, I love that. Well, congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I want to get started. So this is basically a teaching platform. So I have students from around the country who watch and they want to learn from masters. So let's take them back to the very beginning of your life and your career. Now, it says here that you started at the age of 3. Talk about that.
Yes, I started at the age of 3. My grandmother enrolled me into the Little Theater School on Flatbush Avenue. I was born in the Bronx, actually, and so most of my theater training happened at the Little Theater School with my teacher, Joni Edwards. And so I began acting, singing, tap dancing at a very, very early age. And then I did an acting gig like at age 7 with George C. Scott on a television show called East Side, West Side. And then I got my AFTRA and SAG card from doing that. So that was at a very, very early age.
Right, when most kids were just learning how to ride a bike, you're working professionally. Wow. So let me ask you, your grandmother, was she in the business? Is that what she did?
Well, we watched television shows on Sunday in our living room on our console television. And it was a real treat. That was our big day together, a family day. And we sat around the television and watched like the Ed Sullivan Show, Ted Mack Amateur Hour, that kind of stuff. And so she had a showbiz bug in her, and she really wanted me to get it. Okay. So I got it.
So you sure did. So do you have like brothers and sisters? Were you the only one? Like, what was that like growing up?
I was really the only one. I have some half brothers and sisters who actually lived upstairs with my stepmother and my father, my father, but I lived downstairs with my grandmother.
Mhm.
So that was the situation. But
Right.
I was all over the place, you know?
Yes. So
Yeah.
George C. Scott, like, wow. Like, can you talk a little bit about his personality? What was that like working with him?
He had a very pointy nose and he had a scratchy voice and it was way up here, you know, and I was upstairs with him and, you know, just kind of getting to know his personality and what was going to happen on the set. And it was a street, which I was used to because in Brooklyn, I, you know, always played out on the streets with my friends. And so I was told to play stoop ball. So I would throw the ball against the stoop, catch it. And then he was coming down the stairs. And then there was a guy up in the window with a bottle and was getting ready to throw it. And that's when I stopped and I went, "Hey, mister, watch out," like that, you know? And that was,
That was
that was it, you know, and he ran, he jumped on the ground and I scattered away. But because I said those words, you
Mhm.
know, it was a day player job because I said lines
That's right. That's
and I
right.
wasn't an extra. So hello.
Look at
Just
that. So tap dancing film, Ben Vereen. How did you meet him? Where does this all was he on the set with you? Like, how does that happen?
well, that was a little bit later
Mhm.
after that, you know,
Mhm.
after I got the, you know, SAG and AfterCard and all that stuff. Um, I was doing shows at Wolf Trap and I was doing The King and I at Wolf Trap and I was on the stage there and I was working with Jimsy DeLapp and Jack Cole dancer, Buzz Miller. And I was learning a piece called Credo. And I was like, wow, you know, I was picked by them to learn this, you know, this piece of choreography. And Ben Vereen was there at Wolf Trap. He saw me, he said, you should audition for the High School Performing Arts. And so he spoke to my dad, who was a director at the Boys Welcome Hall on Chauncey Street in Brooklyn. And he said to my dad, he said, you know, you should send your son to performing arts. And so I went and I auditioned and it was a really wild story, you know, because I never did that kind of dancing before.
Right.
You know, I never wore tights or a dance belt.
So what was your audition like? Let's just walk me through this. The tap dance. Here he
Well, yeah,
comes.
I did my tap number, you know, but then we had to do modern dance. Yeah, you know,
Modern. Yes.
modern
I have my
dancing.
bun just for you.
And then I saw that. That's very classic, you know. And then, you know, we had to do ballet, speaking of ballet. And so, you know, these odd kinds of positions and, you know, my legs, you know, just were going achiwawa because, you know, I never did that kind of stuff before.
Yeah. So
And
they saw some. Uh-huh.
the demonstrators made it look so easy and so it was so natural and they were wonderful dancers, but I didn't know anything about that kind of dancing. I was doing tap and I was doing showbiz stuff, you know.
Yeah. Destiny. Just meant to be. Because let me tell you, and this is the thing that a lot of as artists talk about. It's like the main ones who really, really, really want it, right? They don't have legs, they don't have feet, right? They can't, and they're
None
the
of that.
ones who
No.
catapult.
You know, and you know, my teachers, they, you know, sat on my back, you know, like, "Argh!" You
Right,
know, put head down on the floor, get your chest to the floor down. I mean, it was like,
right.
and then, you know, they made a wish. I was like a chicken and they cracked all my bones, you know.
That's
Um,
funny.
but I tell you, every dance class I could take, I took.
Mhm.
I was up and down the streets of New York, and I couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
Couldn't
So
get enough.
dance every day, Monday through Friday. Now there's no theater involved because you're just dancing. So did you take
Just,
outside acting?
you know, I did Saturday, Sunday too. Yeah. I always was in touch with acting because I liked playing characters. You know, there's a comedy side of me that really enjoys joking.
Have you done stand up?
A lot of people say, Keith, you should do stand up, and I go, I would love to. I'm doing it right now, but
That's funny.
right now I'm sitting, so I'm not doing.
I love it.
But you know, some of my friends on the block used to, you know, they would chase me because my jokes were like corny,
Oh no.
you know. But you know, I like joking. I like having fun.
Students not in class. He's not talking about in class. You have to be serious.
No.
That's
Well, you
funny.
know, there are funny stories about my dance stuff because
Please tell us. I want to hear.
I never really wanted to do the ballet because it was so hard, you know. So, you know, I felt uncomfortable, you know. I was like, oh, a tendu, what's that? You know, and then I had to brush the floor, you know, point, ow, you know, and then I'm like trying to stretch my chicken legs, you know. And I would like go down in the hallways, and I would not be in ballet class. And so either the teacher would send somebody to get me, or the teacher would open the door and go, Keith Lee, get upstairs in this class now. And that really happened for the first year and a half at Performing Arts High School. But when I started feeling it and I felt comfortable with it and I was getting it, and my confidence grew because I really then was getting to learn the pedagogy, which, you know, from Brooklyn, like, what's pedagogy and what's tendu, what's dégagé, what's frappe? You don't know that kind of stuff. So that's a language that you have to learn. And I was taking French in high school, you know, from my teacher, Madame Stone. She called me Claude. And I'd go like, my name's not Claude, it's Keith, you know? And so she would always want to get a rise out of me. She said, come here, Claude. And I go like, and I would look around like, you're not talking to me, my name's Keith. She said, no, but your name is Claude. And she had these little bird lips, you know, they were very tiny. You know, that kind of stuff, you know, and I would just watch her, you know, and then from the French class to the ballet class, the terminology was working. Everything was kind of coming together.
Well, you were awarded, it says in your bio, after high school with the Capezio Award. So you went far from tap dancing all the way up. So talk about how Capezio gave you an
Oh
award.
my God, you know, like a Capezio Award,
Yes.
you know, that's a dance award, you know, because of the Capezio store that was in Manhattan. And it was a special honor to get, you know, 2 Capezio Awards, ballet and for modern.
Now, how did
And
that happen? Tell us how that happened.
I was a crossover. I mean, I was a crossover because I could do the modern. I was in it. I felt it. You know, I felt my contractions and my releases and spirals and so on and so forth. And I loved it. I loved modern dance. And I love moving in that modern way. But there were not enough boys in the ballet in at Performing Arts at that time. The class ahead of me, which had Christian Holder, Gary Chris, and all of those wonderful dancers, Hector Mercado, I can go down the list. they had so many male dancers in the class ahead of me. I was fortunate enough to be recruited into doing the senior concert as a junior. I mean, that's unheard of, you know? So I got a chance to dance with them in a piece called Country Style. But after that class went away, you know, I was doing Serenade. I was learning Serenade, and I was doing Serenade, and Mr. Balanchine came to the school and coached us. And, you know, now now you're going to go there and you cleanse again. And I would go like, okay, you know, you know, but it was like learning from the Russian, because that's his roots. And, you know, that's his great ballet. So that was a wonderful opportunity. But, you know, I had 3 scholarships. You know, I was at Harkness. I was at SAB, you know. And so basically in having, you know, these scholarships, School of American Ballet and, you know, Harkness, these are great places. And all along Broadway, I was taking class.
The significance of this for
Yeah.
the audience who may not understand, this is unheard of. This is like you're breaking barriers. So let's just talk about that at that time. Being brown, I'm saying. Can you just walk us through the cast, let's just say, of the School of America? Like, talk about that for a minute.
I did.
That was good.
I was the only one in the men's class.
So there was no diversity meeting. There was no right.
You know, there was no one else in that class. You know, and there was Francisco Mancian, Edward Villela, Jacques D'Amboise, you know, Fernando Bujones, you know, all kinds of wonderful dancers, Peter Martins. And I was in class, Stanley Williams was a teacher, or Richard Rapp. And these classes, it was not to be played with. You were in there to dance. And this was a challenge for me, but I was up to the challenge by that time, you know?
And I just have to say another thing. I don't want to keep interrupting you. I'm sorry, but the significance of this for me is I grew up reading about these people in dance magazine, and you were just as accomplished, okay? I'm not sure if they've written anything about you in dance magazine. They should have, if they have not. So I want my audience to understand who you really are and why this is so important to me. Why? So.
Well, you know, I think and you know, to this day, there's still kinds of barriers and little stop signs, you know. I mean, you know, all you could do is push them out of your way and pass through the door and do it, you know. And I danced, I don't know how many roles with American Ballet Theater in 7 years. So many of them. As far as being a Black man in ballet, I felt it, you know. Civil rights was around, you know. I did get a chance to see Arthur Mitchell when I was in the high school performing arts. They took us to see him perform. I was aware of who Johnny Jones was with the Joffrey Ballet. Christian and Gary were just heading over to Joffrey. And I mean, I had a contract offer from Dance Theater of Harlem and ABT at the same time. I took the ABT contract.
Tell us why.
I wanted that challenge,
Okay.
you know? I wanted to be in that company with those people. And so, you know, from Eric Brunn to Carla Fracci, Michael Schmuen, Cynthia Gregory. I mean, I can go down a roster of like the most incredible dancers in American Ballet Theater history. And I was part of that company. Baryshnikov had come over He joined. McCarver was in the company. Paula Bertoluzzi was coming in from Italy. Nureyev came and staged Ramonda. So we were, I mean, this was it.
Let's talk travel. Now, here's a young man from Brooklyn in the Bronx. Let's talk about your first trip abroad with the company. Talk about that, and were you treated any differently because you were brown when you traveled? Or like, let's talk about the difference between America and
America. Well, America's America, and I had really quite a bit of this and quite a bit of that. But, when I had signed the contract with ABT, I was, number one, I was called and invited to come and take an audition. I came, I took the audition, and it was Leon Danielian giving the class. Right afterwards, Lucia Chase had me in her office, and she said, "We want you in the company. We're leaving for Europe next week." Well, I didn't even have time to be excited. Okay. I signed on the dotted line. I did it. I joined. I was like, I could have jumped up and hit the ceiling. I was really on cloud nine, but I had work to do. I had to learn theme and variations right away. And, that was the first dance that I learned in American Ballet Theater, that and Billy the Kid. And I was performing those in England the next week. And, I was like, England, wow. How...
Was your grandmom alive when this was happening? Was she able to see the progression? Oh, okay.
No, my grandmother had passed when I was 12 years old. She had a stroke. I took care of her for, about 3 or 4 months before she passed away. Okay. And I was going to school while I was doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
What a life so far. So where are you? Maybe 21, 22-ish now, and you're touring?
No, I was 17 when I got in ballet theater.
Right after, what?
Right after high school. I mean, I'm telling you, I graduated and I was there, I remember Norman Walker giving me a great opportunity to dance with his company. I danced at Jacob's Pillow. I came back after that and the phone rang. And this was I was just finishing up my senior year at the High School Performing Arts. Next thing I know, in ballet theater at 17 years old.
Okay. So let's talk to the young artists out there who are graduating. They're getting ready to figure out their life. Do I go off and join American Ballet Theater, or do I go off to college? Like, what do you, we now know what you did. What do you suggest is best for these young artists?
Follow your vision, follow your dreams, follow your heartstrings. Let your heartstrings pull you where you may go. Everybody's going to have a different path, but if there is a mission, if there is a dedication, because you have to love what you're doing, you really have to love what you're doing, and then it'll be fun. And then just go with it, give it your all.
Yeah, thank you. Now, this next question seems a little weird because it sounds like you never had to audition for anything, crying out loud. But what advice would you give someone who, just audition advice in general for anything, acting, dancing, anything?
You have to be you have to be yourself. There's so many. I'm so many people, so I can be a lot of different people, so if somebody wants me to do this or do that, I do this, I do that. It was because you got to do what you got to do, But I remember a time when I was again invited to audition for Jelly's Last Jam, and I showed up downtown, I'd never done a, Broadway gig before, and there was a part for a drummer. And this was the original workshop of Jelly's Last Jam. I went in there and I read the part of this jazz drummer. I was doing the part, and reading it. And then, and then I finished reading the part, and then I was getting ready to head out. And I said, well, you guys, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I said, well, take care. Thank you. And I was getting ready to leave. And they said, where are you going? I said, I finished reading. I think I'm done here, like that. And they said, you're not going anywhere. You're part of the cast now. And I went like, oh my God, yay, hip, 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 hooray.
So talk a little bit about, now I was, in New York still when Jelly's Last Jam was out. So briefly talk about who the director was, what it was about, because it's a tap Broadway show and you tapped. So I kind of assumed that's where you were, but now you're telling me you were a different character.
Well, it was kind of, it was really kind of impromptu, and, there was so many Broadway veterans and gypsies in the show. People that I knew, some people that I didn't know, and, showed up at 9 in the morning, and you had to be ready to go. I was working with, it was Otis the lead who was actually choreographing it at that time. And, so we were learning dance sequences and it was very challenging, but you had to be on it.
Well, so you're used to that. You said you worked Monday through Sunday at a young age. You've been doing this all your life.
It was really Monday through Friday.
Yes.
For this, because this was the very beginning of Jelly's Last Jam. This was, we were putting it together, and it was fast. And we put these numbers together fast, and
let's talk about that real quick. It's a learning platform, and how you said you helped put the show together. You structured the show. Talk to us about contracts and what you would suggest now that if you're helping to put together a show, or there are points that you would suggest that young artists requesting their contract, or just leave it alone. What would you suggest?
Well, this is a different ball of wax, because, this is not something you negotiate. This is put to you. There's a standard salary, for people that are part of the cast. I mean, that's kind of what it is. As you climb the ladder, you get into negotiations. But when you get the contract, of course, you read it through. They ask certain questions about, your commitment. You have to be committed. There's nothing called calling in sick, really. I mean, you're there. You've got to be there. So once you commit to, doing a Broadway show or performing in any type of theater outlet, you have to be professional. Professional means showing up. And I don't mean just showing up. I mean completely giving of yourself. 100%.
Would you say it's harder for live Broadway versus performance work with ballet or modern dance companies?
Yes, there is a big difference between concert dancing and theater dancing.
So talk about it for the young kids.
Well, the concert dancing, you're learning certain roles, from concert master choreographers, you know. And so the language in dance, basically, there's ballet, there's modern, there's contemporary, but you have to know all the genres of it. You have to know your jazz, you have to know even tap. There's rhythms, and African dancing, um, East Indian, Katakali Bharatanatyam, you have to even know how to play the castanets. And so we had all of that in Performing Arts High School. We had all of that kind of training. We even had historical dancing from King Louis XIV's court, from a wonderful teacher named Stephanie Zimmerman. Now,
Yes.
I went Piewski because I didn't really care for the, that kind of, the Polonaise, the Mazurkas, the Chardas, all of that. And I can say that now in the 14th century courtesy. I can say that now, but when I got in ballet theater and I had to do a Polonaise or I had to do a certain kind of bow, when I was doing like Sleeping Beauty and I was being Canto Butte and I had this Diana Ross wig on and I had to do a certain kind of bow, I knew how to do it. I went back to the school and I said, "Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerman."
Really?
I did. I did because I was, I was a little kind of snooty because I didn't understand that kind of dancing and why they were doing it. But by gum, when I got out of that class, I knew it.
Yeah. Okay. Versus Broadway, you're saying. Just do your part.
So, do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. Fruit, baby. So you have that Broadway thing, and I, with people like Jamie Rogers or JoJo Smith, Matt Maddox, and, a lot of, Jack Cole, a lot of different jazz teachers that I had. And I was up and down the streets of New York, popping in to those classes. And hey, some of the fierce gypsies were coming up in there and they were thrashing and they would just had the legs all up, throwing themselves around. And, it was like watching the stars come out. It was like a telethon.
Yeah. So for you, with all the genres, which one connects to your soul the most?
The one I'm doing at the time.
Okay. Which is?
The one I'm doing at the time. And,
Let's talk,
whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. Okay. That's honest. Let's go into choreography. I'm not quite sure, you mentioned in your bio exactly when you knew you could choreograph, or when you felt like I have something to say. So when did that happen for you?
Right away.
Wow, at 3?
Because,
were you organizing George C. Scott's movie? Were you choreographing his stuff?
If I was like jumping off of the bed onto the floor, I was doing a different kind of role, literally. And, I'd sweep around or, do something kind of interesting, So that was at a, very early age, but my declaration of the choreography came when I was at the High School of Performing Arts. And again, I was choreographing already when I was in high school. And so I remember having my first show at Clark Center when I was in the High School of Performing Arts. And I had Beth Shorter, Matthew Diamond, Teresa Hill were the dancers I was working with at the time. And I did Clark Center. And Kathleen Grant had sponsored my show's Evening of First. And that was the very first choreography I did at Clark Center. It got reviewed. I got great reviews. I shortly then, when I joined Ballet Theater, and I was 19 years old when they asked me to do a ballet on the company. It was called Time Past.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. Your inspiration. Some people say they hear music and it inspires them. Some people say color. Is it just movement with you? Like, do you just like, how do you create the canvas? Like, how do you just say, I'm gonna do, and right? I just want to know, like, what is your vision? How does it work? I'm so intrigued.
Well, the vision is the light bulb, because when you turn the light on, or even when you go to sleep, there's dance, there's movement, there's feelings, there's stories, there's abstraction. And it's kind of a reaching, you can never turn it off. And so that's one thing with me, is that it doesn't go away. I could do a movie on this. I can do a movie on this kind of, it's not anxiety. It's just a constant flow of ideas and the search and the sense memory of journey to these places, and wanting to go to those places and wanting to create these things, and constantly staying in the laboratory with what I'm doing. If somebody came into a studio and it's an empty studio and they go, can we use this studio? There's nothing going on in here. And I say to them, yes, something is going on in here. You just can't see it.
I need a break. We're gonna edit this out. 1 second. The genius. Like, I'm just, okay. I wasn't ready for that.
You go like, oh, he's crazy.
No. It's just, you must be exhausted. I can't.
No, it's you know what? It's crazy because every single moment of time and each second, it has to be accounted for with me. I gotta go, oh, this is what I have to do. And then I do it.
So it's amazing to listen to just how all of that comes about into your head. And now I want to take a minute and have the audience just see a little bit of what it is that you've done for the community of the arts. And before you talk about it, I want to introduce, you're going to talk about the Elk Valley Nocturnes Part 2. We're going to see Ghostwriter Part 1. And then we're going to take a look quickly at Imagery at Dreamtime. One moment. Here we go.
Distant dreams of Daddy. He would laugh aloud when I called him father. He'd squint at me ever so. That look passing through me like a frigid wind, goose-bumped folly, hoping he didn't know all that. Knowing what he knew never came to mind. He was the sweetest man I've ever known. He was so kind. But his kindness could hurt your behind with his leather belt. I stayed respectful, I always felt, anxious to learn as much as I could. Daddy embarrassed me firmly and taught me all was good.
Amazing work, sir. Amazing work. So briefly, let's go through each of them. The first one was the Elk Valley Nocturnes Part 2. Talk about that.
Well, the Elk Valley Nocturnes came from my life here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the nature of it. And so I was asked to come and do a workshop and a work for the North Carolina School of the Arts. And so I went there, and I had 21 dancers in the studio and 1 week to choreograph this work. And so, I hit it, and it was like all of this was from the nature that we live in the mountains, and the gifts that are brought to us through nature. And so the Elk Valley Nocturnes, basically is something that's nocturnal. It happens at night. It's dreamlike, and it has a very earthy feeling to it. And I found some music to kind of match that. And the setting is really weird. As I was going into the North Carolina School of the Arts, there was an elk, a statue of an elk right in front of the school. And this was before I had this idea before I saw the elk. And so in happenstance and in this kind of schematic feeling of this is meant to be. And it happened. And it was really, really wonderfully odd. And that's the kind of work I like to do, because people kind of go like, what is he doing? What is this? And not everybody likes what I do. And I don't really care, I do it because it hasn't been done. And it's my vocabulary and it's my stamp. And, this is what I love to do.
It was wonderful to see. The next one we have, I think was the Ghostwriter Part 1.
The Ghostwriter was a celebration of my 50 years in dance and theater. And I wanted to celebrate it, moi, because no one else was.
Right.
So, I want to throw a me party. So I decided that I would write 20 poems. I wrote 20 poems. And then I had put these dances that I had choreographed over the years behind the poems. And it really, really worked beautifully. And I didn't want anyone to know that I did it. That's the beauty of it. So I had a ghost do it. And I wanted to be a ghostwriter. And I didn't want anyone to know that I wrote these 20 poems. I didn't even want anyone to know that I did these dances. It was very spiritual. And it was kind of like leaving my body. I was on the other side of me creating this. And I was able to drop out. I was able to drop out of Keith Lee. I was a ghost. And ghosts know many things about the spiritual world.
What I love about that story is it's the same language, whether it was through dance or written. Together, it was one. If that makes sense. It's like one way to communicate, but in two different mediums. If that makes sense at all, coming from the same person.
It really, really does.
At different times, saying the same thing. I love it.
And I like to talk, and a lot of people say, Keith, you should do voiceovers, you know, and I've done voiceovers. And so with the ghostwriter, I narrated all the poems, you know, and that's the acting side of me, you know. So I had an opportunity.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Charles Epps, I'm going to interview him tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
He just said you're a genius. And I know, you know, you don't give that word out, just throw it out. And I am in total agreement. Like, you're one of a kind, like amazing. It's just an honor to sit with you. Okay. Whoo, audience, I can't take it. It's too much. Okay. So the last one that we viewed was Imagery at Dreamtime. And I'm afraid to hear what this was. At Dreamtime, Lord, what was going on? Okay.
Whoa, you know, it's Anthony Dvorak, you know, or they would say Dvorak. And to capture this kind of music, you know, you have to really streamline the movement, and you have to become the strings. And, you know, in order to do that, this imagery at Dreamtime, I put into certain times of day and certain nuance with the dancers. It was created on the dancers, and I had the chance to really put these dancers, like, let's say in the beginning, the love of a point shoe. Do you realize what it's like for a woman to want to put those things on her feet and get up on her toes? And I imagined, I said, oh my God, they're dancing on a wooden box with a little bit of lamb's wool there. Why? Why do you want to put yourself anyway? So Dreamtime was this ballerina who saw the shoes coming down and they landed on the floor. And she gets up and she starts moving through fourth. She goes to arabesque and she does her ballet steps, and she adores her shoes. She loves her shoes. It might be something parallel to the red shoes, but it's not. It's very different. It's the pure love of ballet and the girls going point shoe shopping. And, you know, when you watch ballerinas go to Capezio, hello, remember? And they're putting on those point shoes and they're looking at the Sanjas and, you know, all Freeds, all the different kind of shoes that they can buy. It's like they're going to some jewelry store to purchase, you know, wonderful jewels. And so they take the shoes and they look at them. They look at the bottom of the shoe, the way it's cut, and they put it on their feet. And this beautiful silk that surrounds the shoe, and how they go up onto those boxes, and their feet so beautifully pliable up on the boxes. Well, what a love, what a joy. And then there is an Hispanic section, you know, and you know, to have the Faruca feeling, you know, da, 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 da. And then going on the point, and then the sounds of bourrées and all of that, that syncopation that's in the music goes into the creation on the dancers as well, and weaving those kinds of parts. But the funniest part for me is the wonderful innocence of the young ballerina who loves to dance, loves her shoes, and then all the girls going point shoe shopping together in the second section. So there's a lot in there, you know.
Beautifully done. I have to ask you about costumes. When you choreograph, do you visualize the costumes as well, the lighting, or do you hire outside people to assist?
You know, for me, I don't really think costumes are necessary. You know, if you do the movement and you're in it and you capture the essence, the flavor and the spices of what you're creating in this mixture and recipe, that's really all you need. You know, costumes are nice, they're wonderful, you know, but the moolah, you know, having the money, sometimes people have the money and, you know, hey, have at it. But I have a vision of the kind of costumes that I like to see on the dancers, definitely.
Okay.
I do have an idea of the lighting because that's part of the dance. I can light a piece
Okay. Mhm.
because I'm creating the piece.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Young artists out there, no budget, minimal dancers, no space. What do you recommend? How do they pursue their dreams?
Creating something from absolutely nothing
Mhm.
is what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
You're not supposed to have anything.
Sorry, I don't want to laugh. I'm sorry. I'll let it
You're not
pass.
supposed to have anything. And you don't have anything. You don't have money.
I love you so much. Oh my God. Yes. 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 Okay. All right. So I'm sorry. All right. So now we're back. So now I want to talk about, oh, I wanted to ask you too. Um, how do I ask this? When you're selecting dancers for your work, right?
Mm.
Whew, skill versus talent. Let's talk about that. You mentioned briefly before, like it's about, you want to get somebody who knows what they're doing. But then there's the other part where the person's so talented. Do you take the time to nurture them to get them to where you are, or do you just want skill? Like, which one?
Oh, that's a really, really good question, you know, and I've got so many different answers for that, you know, and it
Mhm.
really has a lot to do with the work. You know, I remember a piece called Exodus, Moving All the People, that I created in Bogota, Colombia, you know, with a company called Tecnia Cabillos. And they were raw dancers. These people, you know, the salsa, you know, was in their bodies, you know, and those dances from the rainforest were inside of them. And I wanted those dances. I wanted those feelings. And, you know, I had the music of Pitnia Cabillos. Well, that was the company, but the music that I used was Bob Marley.
Mhm.
And you know, I love Bob Marley music.
Mhm.
You know, we went all the way Rastafari, you know,
Yes.
we went
Okay.
all the way Rastafari. And they had that. You know that those people, if they didn't carry their passports, and while I was there, if you didn't have your passport, the militia could kill you. The military were on the streets with rifles. The minister of justice was assassinated while I was there. You know, so there's gorillas up in those hills in Bogota.
And there
And
you are,
so
putting,
I had I
creating
had
in the midst of all of that.
I had a military person killed by a whore. And I caused disruption in the audience because I'm for the people. I've always been for the people.
Okay, so you have to tell that story. There's no way I'm going to let you not tell that story. Please.
Well, you know, the people
Yes.
have nothing
Hmm.
but each, and
So
they
you would.
give
Mhm.
they give to each other so much, you know, and anything is special. Everything is special. You know, if they bring some arequipa to you, some passion fruit, you know, or you have the fuego leche, you know, these are things that are gifts. The kinds of food that they eat, the kind of culture that they have is embedded in them. And they give each person of the people or for the people. But when you go around and the military are walking around, you can feel it. And you can feel hate. And you know what hate really is. And there is fear because they could kill you at any moment if you didn't have a passport. And so there was unity with the people. And we were for each other. But I wanted to make a revolutionary statement because I'm a revolutionary man. I'm a revolutionary person. And having gone through civil rights and rights of people, rights of path is what I stand for. I stand for humanity on a raw level.
Amen. Okay, so now you are back in the States, right? And you're in Virginia and you're still creating. And you have two things that I want to talk about before I let you go. I want to talk about the New World Dance, right? Your ballet school in Virginia. So talk about quickly about those two things after you left there and you did that. So go ahead.
Well, you know, first of all, I went to Lynchburg. Listen, Lynchburg.
I know, I didn't want to say that, but you did. Thank you.
You know, I went there for a reason. And, you know, Black kids here and the underserved people here did not have arts. And so that's what I did. I decided to make art. I decided to plant roses in the sand and watch them grow. And so I had my dance theater of Lynchburg School, which was 3 floors of dance, 2 buildings. So actually it was really that many floors of dance. And I had it for 14 years. And it was glorious. It was successful. New World Dance happened when somebody from Canada came to me and wanted me to start a school in Toronto. And so my wife and I, we went to Toronto and we started something called New World Dance. And it had not only dance, but they learned, you know, an education. They got a full education at it. And the chancellor there legalized it. It's still there, New World Dance. And we did in Toronto, Canada.
I love the way it's worded. I'm going to have that written underneath you so people could take a look at that.
It was a form of outreach too. I used it as my motto. I used it as, you know, my terminology and gifts for the kids, you know, and I went out to the projects in the very heat of the day in the summer, some of the hottest days, and sat down in the grass with young dancers and taught them flat backs and contractions and getting their legs up and spirals and all of that kind of wonderful stuff, because that stuff was given to me.
Yeah. Shout out to Ms. Zimmerman, even though you didn't mention you gave them Polynesian dance. We're going to shout Ms. Zimmerman out anyway. So what's next for you, sir? I mean, you've been all over the world, films, Broadway, stage, Europe, and in the midst of all of the militia. What's next? Like, what's going on with you?
Well, you know, after doing the Ghostwriter, and, you know, I just decided to work on a new work. It's the Orion Dance Constellations. Has a lot to do with stars and planets, that kind of thing. And, you know, so I'm weaving a piece together that's happening May 7th with the Charlottesville Ballet in Charlottesville, Virginia. And that's where the riots happened. And so I did a piece right after the riots called Just Make Believe. In these people that were way to the right and the people that stormed the White House in Washington, D.C. And it seems to take so long to prosecute these monsters. I did a piece called Just Make Believe that we all understand each other and that we're not just Democrats and Republicans, but that we're just humanity and we get along.
Yeah,
Just
so
make
just
believe.
make believe. Wow. Okay, so you
And
have your group of dancers. So what if we wanted to view that? Now, we're not there. So is there a way that it's going to be streamed? How could we?
basically, it's going to happen at the Paramount Theater May 7th in Charlottesville. And, I'm pretty sure we'll take, stream it out when it
So we're
happens.
looking forward to seeing that. And then hopefully, if you're interested, we can pull you back after that and we could talk about that presentation because I'd love to hear your views about that piece. If we wanted to contact you for mentorships or for workshops, how would people contact you?
Well, I'm very accessible to people, and I have a website, keithleedances.com, and it has my how people can get in touch with me. My phone number is there. I'm very accessible to people,
Okay, awesome. Okay, so we'll make sure we put that underneath your name here. Last words of encouragement for young artists.
Well, when the white eagle is flying overhead and the browns, red, and gold of autumn are lying in the gutter dead, remember then spring's new hope, born of leaves decaying. As new life comes from death, love will come. Love of life, and giving without measure gives in return the wonderful yearning of peace. Live hand in hand, together we'll stay on the threshold of a dream. Moody Blues.
Keith Lee, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Peace.
Honor it is for me and for all of us. Stay healthy. I can't wait to see what's next. Please stay in contact. I want to believe that I have a friend.
Dawn, thank you so much for having me. And we are brother and sister.
Amen. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching 15 Minutes of Fame. See you next